Yes. Well, hello, Marcus.
Hello there.
Nice to have a chance to connect since you and I meeting has been the seed for this brand new podcast platform that we launched yesterday. I thought it would be appropriate for me to get an answer from you on how we met, where you came from before we met, and what your dreams are for what we're preparing to do.
Okay, so starting off with, we met at Uric when you were introduced as the new president,
Yes.
a company called Uric, and Uric Geo Energy, I think. And we connected and seemed to have had a synergistic connection right off the bat at Uric. And then as you wound up being transitioned out of there, we seemed to felt where we resonated with each other to continue our connection and to not let it go just because of whatever's happening with that company. Prior to this company, over the last 38 years, I've done personal and professional development trainings and seminars and workshops, even internationally. Whenever I needed to keep a base of income coming in, I chose to get in the life insurance industry. So I've sold life insurance and annuities for over 30 some years, over 38 years, I think. I started in 1984. So those are the areas I've chosen to put a lot of time and energy in, as well as I've also done a lot of multi-level marketing, and I've wound up being able to do that on a pretty high level. So that's kind of been the career path for me. And the biggest passions for me in the world is flying helicopters and doing seminars. I've been an airplane pilot 31 years, had my own airplane for quite a while. And then I've been a helicopter pilot 25 years. And that's what I love to do is fly helicopters. Oh my goodness. I love flying helicopters more than anything.
So if we talk about selling insurance, multi-level marketing, and motivational speaking or personal development speaking, what's the thread that weaves through all of those? What kind of skills are needed to be successful in all three of those areas?
Well, I will say that having people skills and being able to recognize the different intricacies of a person's personality and how to navigate through those personality types and moving them forward or moving them in the direction I need them to go, or moving a whole crowd of people in a certain direction, I need to tap on those primary personality types that I've learned to be able to recognize. So that's about the most common thing, that in all of those areas is being able to really recognize the personality type, speak their language, and make sure I don't speak their non-language, and move them to where I need them to go, whether that's buying a death life insurance policy or whether that's getting them to buy whatever it is I'm selling, whether it's a $2,500 course or a $6,000 private one-on-one session. It's critically important to know the personality type so that I can be effective in moving them where I need them to go.
So that sounds like a pretty complicated skill. For our viewers, is there a light version of that where someone could refine the skills they maybe already have? We all have some version of that, refined to various levels. What do you think our listeners could do to right now, today, take some action to help improve their ability to do those things you just talked about?
Well, there's some very complicated aspects of what I'm talking about, but I never got involved in those. I like to keep things super simple. So the 4 types of personality, the shark, the whale, the dolphin, and the urchin, everybody can understand those 4 animals. And as I describe in layman's terms, what each one of those entail, well, then it makes it super simple. So in terms of our listeners today, I would encourage them to dial our number or log into our podcast or email address so that they can be a part of whatever we're doing later on, where we can go over in maybe 10 or 15 minutes how to recognize each one of those personality types without some big, long, convoluted test. Call us up. It's the answer to the question. Call us up. Get with us quick, fast, as soon as we're off this podcast, and call us up and schedule some short amount of minutes to learn what we're talking about.
The whole point of this platform is to draw a cross section of talent to come and share
Yeah.
their ideas with us. And we want our community to grow. So we encourage everybody that wants to help us build this out, because it's not just us, it's everybody that comes and joins in with us to give us a like, become a subscriber. Maybe if you would like to be a featured speaker, let us know that, or you know somebody that would be. This is the baby stage of this platform. And
Right.
everything that everyone does is what can make this a magnificent place to be. You mentioned another company where we met. That was a short-lived, maybe 3 weeks for me. But what I have found that I see again here is every opportunity that I've been around, even those that end up not being a match for me, I walked from each of those with some very important relationships that became an instrumental part of where I was going next. Have you noticed such things yourself?
Oh, yes, that's absolutely the case. And I think that turns out to be about the most valuable aspect of that particular encounter with that company. It's the quality of the persons that have been met and those connections that have been able to stay. That's priceless, in my opinion.
Yeah, and how do you know when you've met a quality person? How do you know that?
There's such thing as what's called a vibrational frequency. And it seems like when that happens, the vibrational frequency seems to resonate together. It's really eerie, and some people call it foo foo fa fa, but it's like a spiritual connection, some would call it a synergistic connection. But I like the term of the same vibrational frequency. We seem to be tuned in on that same frequency, and we go off into the wild blue yonder and hopefully live happily ever after and be friends friends for life until death, because that frequency seems to be the same.
I've met many people over the many years of my life, and if we just put them in two broad categories, this is a huge generalization. I found those that are willing to take risk, shall we say, in various degrees, and those that are so unwilling to take risk that they really limit their exposure to the world and to other people down to a very small corner. I've certainly have had difficult relationships over the course of my life. I'm not suggesting that other people were at fault for my problems, but here's something that I've learned over the last number of years of my life. Rather than working on a relationship, if you're having problems, what I believe really needs to be done, you need to work on yourself, because you will attract who is the best match for you at any particular time. If you want to attract a happier type of person, if you want to attract someone that just has a better attitude about life, well, you've got to have that better attitude yourself. Is there something that you do in your daily practice of life to help you work on you?
Well, I do a pretty rigorous and consistent prayer life twice a day. And when I have my daughters, it's 3 times a day. So that's pretty significant. But I'm always constantly feeding my mind and my soul personal development, spiritual development. Now that today's time, I'm able to go to YouTube and put in anything I want in there, and it's going to play it back. 30 years ago, I had to use VHS tapes, cassette tapes, and I'd have to buy certain things and books and book of the week, tape of the month. And I was constantly getting it that way. But now I go to my phone or my iPad, I can put in whomever I want to put in there and feed my body, mind, and soul personal and spiritual development stuff on a regular basis. I can take it everywhere I go. So that's part of a ritual. The prayer part and the things I play on YouTube are pretty significant contributions for that.
You've said something very powerful there. I had a comment from somebody. I was discussing some of the ideas that we're talking about. They said, oh, that personal development stuff, it's all the same. Nothing's changed. The same stories over and over again. What I want to suggest, when that is a belief that is being carried, what someone is saying is you really have no control over improving the quality of your life. You're essentially a victim. And the things that people talk about, people, gurus, spiritualists, church, whatever that happens to be, it's all just variations on a theme. I would say that is true. They all are variations on a theme. There are certain truths that reiterate through all systems in man and woman seeking for knowledge and happiness. Now, here's what's confusing. Every field can also have crooks in it, right? So you can have someone that takes what is the framework of something that's for positive, but they're actually using that framework to be a crook. And if you haven't learned discernment, how to pay attention, then the crook would sound the same as someone that's genuine. Now, let's take it a step further. You can have someone that's genuine that is confused. So they're being generally confused.
Yeah.
And that's an experience as well. So what we're suggesting is that bring people around you for whom you have a good feeling. What you commented on the vibration, everything has vibrations, everything.
Right.
I was just practicing guitar before we got on this, and I do lots of complicated pieces. So I had the sheet music out. I hadn't played it for a while. It's a little bit rusty. And as I was digging through it, I said, you know, I've played this by the metronome so many times. Why not just set that metronome aside and just listen to it? And I started hearing how the strings were vibrating together. And I started feeling these feelings coming up inside of me that I hadn't felt when I played this piece for a long time. And it was the vibration that just was in sync with me. And it was an overwhelming emotional experience. So some people think they have to take drugs or alcohol or something like that to get an experience. But I can suggest that if you'll practice something, it will free you up to express yourself through that instrument. Now, here's something exciting. Both of my parents were artists. So they had the drawing skill. That's like a musical instrument or athletics. It takes practice, right? And they had it for careers. So they were very practiced. Well, I never practiced it. I can't draw. I could pull off a stick figure at best. And I found these AI programs that generate images. There's a lot of controversy over that. But set the controversy aside for a moment. And I went in and started practicing with it and created some artwork that really pleased me. And so here's a person with no technical skills to express themselves through art. I haven't practiced at it, but I was able to generate images. Now, not all of them. I generated a bunch, and some I didn't like. It's like that with any artistic pursuit. But I generated some things that I thought were just beautiful, and I shared them with other people. And that experience, even though I wasn't skilled enough to do the art, being able to have that tool gave me the expression of art, and it felt good. Do you know that art therapy is suggested for people that are having emotional problems and depression? Have you heard that before?
Yeah, that and dance therapy and all those different types of things, they're becoming on stronger and stronger and more popular nowadays. Yes, thank you for sharing that.
I heard a talk show host on YouTube, one of the podcasts, who said it's impossible to be depressed while you're swimming. I don't know why, some physiological thing. So they said, if you're feeling depressed, get into the swimming pool and just start moving your body and swimming, even if you're not a good swimmer, and your depression will go away. Now, they said when you get out, if you have the same life and don't have other practices, eventually the thoughts come back, which releases chemistry into your body, and the chemistry gives you what we call feelings, right? When someone says they are angry, the word anger is attached to what? Release of chemicals in our body, and we physically feel a certain way, and then we tag a name onto it, right?
Right.
But here's something that is fascinating about anything. The way our brains work, it's a recall tool. So when something angers you, everybody has their version of what that feels like. What's firing off in the back of your brain at a subconscious level? Every other time you've been angry in your whole life, which is how you can get worked up into such of a steam. So for us, in this confusing period of time that we've come into, I think we can all agree there's more change going on in the world now than most people know what to do with. What are your plans going forward from today to help first yourself and then others cope with the radical change that we're coming through right now?
Well, as I'm revamping some things at this stage in life, I'm looking at monetizing the skill sets, being able to brand and market and publicize and publish, and getting the word out about what I'm able to do and how I'm able to facilitate others. So what I'm doing today for myself is exactly positioning myself to now be able to help and facilitate others coaching them in terms of how to overcome issues and obstacles and challenges and getting through some of the anxieties and the depressions like you mentioned. I love the idea of where if you're depressed, and feeling depression, get in the pool. You can't be depressed swimming in the pool. I just really love that. I've never heard it like that. And then I flipped it real quick, a little bit, just for me personally, because I keep trying to figure out what is it about helicopters? What's going on here? Well, when I'm up there flying, and you can't be sad and down, and you can't be nothing else but joyous, joy unspeakable. When you're flying, you have to be laser focused. All four limbs have to work at the same time. And I think that might add into me figuring out this mystery of why am I so fanatical and passionate about flying? Or even, I mean, I don't even have to be flying. I could just stare at it for, a real life helicopter on top of the hospital for my whole lunch hour. I did that every day at lunch. And so I used to wonder why, how. Anyway, but back to the question, I want to just really begin to now more passionately than ever get situated to where I'm able to market and share and publicize and stream and Zoom and Teams and all types of mediums of getting the word out with some of these techniques and concepts that I've learned about so they can facilitate others. And sometimes it's the simplest thing shared that can transform somebody's life. Some simple thing I forgot about and don't even think about anymore from 20 years ago. And today that still could resonate with someone else and help transform and change the trajectory of their life. So that's what I'm planning on doing, sir.
I was on a call with someone earlier today, and it occurred to me, as fancy as you can get with anything, and you just keep building complexity on top of it, it's
Right,
imperative to drop back to the basics regularly. Because what happens
yeah.
is you build on top of something, you can actually get off track and you can be doing some pretty impressive things. But if your foundation is faltering, eventually all the fanciness will crumble down on top of you. So I
That's right.
went back to some of the people that I have learned from and listened to things that I've heard. I'll listen to something 100 times until I
Yes.
until I can't hear it anymore. I need to get away for a while. And I was in my meditation. This has happened the last couple, 3 days for me. And I think it's a result of some practices that I'm doing, where I kept going into a trance while I was meditating. And what I mean by that is I would lose track of where I was, and all of a sudden I'd be like 30 minutes later, and I don't know what happened in between. And it's happened a couple, 3 times in a row. I think that's an indication to me that there's a change taking place, and it's time to adjust the techniques that I'm using to really discover where we're going. I'd highly recommend something that is taken for granted. It's talked about in Think and Grow Rich. That's a classic. And it's mastermind. Mastermind.
Yes. The
So
mastermind group. Yes.
you get together diverse thinking people. What are boards of directors for corporations? If they're put together properly, it's a mastermind group. They have
Great one. Yes.
Yes, they have disciplines with years of experience in their field. And the corporations with good boards, I'm a lender. I'm in the lending business. And when you're looking at a larger company, what do you look to? Their board of directors to see if they have the credentials and the life skills to guide this company that we're going to loan money to through these difficult times. Because what's happening is times are so critical and changes are happening so rapidly. And it's beyond the scope of this show to go into all the things I've studied over the last few years about this. But people are aware. You'd have to have your head under your pillow to not see what's going on. So the question isn't, are we going to have change? It's not whether you like it or not. Most people don't like change. Most people like their routines. But it's going to happen anyway. So since it's going to happen anyway, you do have two choices. You can let it roll over you and your life will be worse. Or you can say, okay, this is uncomfortable. Ask yourself, where's the opportunity? So do you have something you do where you say, where's the opportunity? Example, this last company where you and I met ends up not being a match for me. A very short time I found that out. But yet, here's the opportunity. We met each other. I met a couple of other people there as well. So what techniques do you use, especially in the midst of stress and turmoil, to get your mind to say, where's the opportunity?
Well, I think of that question, and but in a long, or I should say, and in addition to that, what I use is, what lesson am I to learn from this? And that's a heavy question for me sometimes, because I kind of feel like, universe or God or whoever people look up to, I think I could have learned this another way. That's how I think sometimes, Dave. I think I could have learned this horrific lesson another way. I would have liked to have learned it maybe through reading or studying or watching a movie or anything. But to learn certain lessons so hard, and sometimes they seem so painful. But in those cases, as I'm asking myself, what am I to learn from this experience? What the answer is, it comes out, and I can say that because of sometimes the pain of it, I will never forget it. So it won't have to be repeated. I will not forget this lesson. It was sometimes, it's so devastating. And then some of the ones that are less devastating, I just continue to ask that same question. What is the lesson that I'm to learn from this? And the same way of looking at it, like, where is the opportunity here? So I look at it from both of those directions, and it seems to help me get through some of this stuff.
Some people are born with greater intuition and they learn more easily. I'm a stubborn person, and here's what I believe to be true. Your lesson that you didn't learn before it was painful, you had multiple unremembered opportunities to learn that lesson without pain, and it didn't work. So the level of pain keeps rising until you can't ignore it anymore. And then you hit an important one. When the pain is great enough, you're going to remember it. The question is, now that you are in that pain, where's the transition for you going to be? Are you going to get jaded, sour, angry, and build that side of your personality? Or are you going to surrender to it? That's one of the great keys in life. How do you surrender to what's happening? Because you can't really fight something and win. You have to surrender to it. There's something called Aikido. I'm not a practicer, but it's fascinating. You surrender to the energy of your opponent and use their own attack against them. It's their actual energy attacking you that takes them down.
Powerful stuff. Yes, I agree. That's a great approach to things. And I would want to continue to keep that mindset of, what is the opportunity? What is the lesson here? And I keep that at the forefront. That way, I don't get into the mindset, David, of trying to fight against per se. I become a lot more fluid and flowy so that I can navigate to the next place. I seem to have learned too that the toxicity of any kind of negative thoughts or negative energies is so damaging to the cells and the molecular structure of my DNA. And I don't want that toxicity in me. So I'm able to flow and ebb and flow and release quicker, faster, and redirect and look for the next either lesson or opportunity and pursue that. But I don't typically waddle and wallow, even though my favorite types of movies, they say, people love certain movies because we live a fantasy in those movies that we maybe can't live out in real life. But my favorite type of movies that I seem to really enjoy, I hope it's okay to say this.
Sure.
But the revenge movies, oh, I just enjoy those so much. There's one called Law Abiding Citizen with Jamie Foxx and Gerard Butler. Did you see that one?
I don't remember. Maybe I've seen so many. I'm an avid moviegoer.
I would like for you to see Law Abiding Citizen. And then a classic one is called The Count of Monte Cristo. Very old movie. Anyway, so the point is, I don't want to get into those mindsets where someone has really done something bad or negative or wronged me. I shift the paradigm and go a different direction, as fluid and flowy as I can, so that I can position myself to attract the next opportunity for myself.
So the value of what we're calling a mastermind group, and really what we're building here is a fluid mastermind platform. And
Yes.
as I said in our first broadcast, we're not going to have fancy sets. People are going to come as they are. We had a great guest yesterday. I've got some other guests coming down. If someone is a suit and a tie wearer, have at it. But what I'm looking for is more the feel like the show is over and the movie stars are leaving the set And the movie stars, I use that because we all have personas and facades that we use in life and in business to cope with society. But I want to go behind the scenes with these people into the dressing room and have them loosen their tie and give us the straight skinny of what's really going on in their life. Because there are so many opportunities right now. And I want this platform to be an education for us. I'm on a quest. We are on a hero's journey. It's the classic story. We are on the hero's journey. There is a huge need for healing in the world. And that can sound cornballish, but I can't tell you a greater feeling that I have than when someone says to me, thank you for that. It made a big difference to me. I've had people that I've just sent things that I found to them text. Oh, I found this. I was thinking of you. And had them come to me later and say, you have no idea what my life was going through and what a bright spot in my life that was. That's what we want to do. That's what we want everyone that comes here to do for others and multiply the joy and possibilities in this world. It can be done, and I want to do it with you, Marcus, and other guests that we bring on. You have anything you'd like to say to us in closing today?
Oh, yeah, I just simply would encourage people to just hang on in there. As I like to say, help is on the way. And we're co-creating that very thing right here on this platform, David. I'm excited to partner up with you and doing these types of things. But I like for people to realize and get in their mind, help is on the way. Help is here and help is on the way with what we're creating. Just hang on in there no matter what, no matter how challenging it might be. We are going to bring the value and encounter some supernatural healings and some supernatural occurrences in each one of our lives because of our synergistic connection, David. I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, me too, very much. We want to encourage everyone, tell your friends, help us build out this network, bring your ideas. You'll be part of this. It's not us. The two of us are just the seeds that started this. We have an idea and we said, I bet you there's other people who would like to be part of this. Let's bring them together. Let's have this platform be a place to work through challenges and come up with solutions. And at that, I will say thank you so much for listening and watching. Please give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe. We're going to try to record these on a regular basis. We want them to come out to you. If you've got comments on how you'd like us to improve it, we're here to learn too. Marcus, thank you so much for your time today.
No problem. Thank you. Take care now.
My pleasure.
Bye. Bye-bye.